The courtroom doors swung open with a force that made the bailiff flinch. Karen Martinez strutted in like she owned the place, her expensive heels clicking against the tile floor with an arrogance that could be heard 3 rows back. Her arms were loaded with designer bags, her face twisted into that signature entitled smirk that screamed, "I'm about to ruin someone's day." She had no idea that in less than 10 minutes, she would be the one whose day, whose reputation, and whose entire life would be obliterated on national television. Judge Judy Scheindlin sat at her bench, flipping through the case file with the calm precision of a surgeon examining a patient before a complex operation. Her reading glasses perched low on her nose, her expression unreadable but her eyes sharp as daggers. This wasn't just any case for her. This was the kind of case that reminded her why she'd spent 25 years in family court before becoming the highest-paid personality on television. She'd seen thousands of liars, frauds, and manipulators walk through her courtroom doors. But something about this particular file made her jaw tighten. The evidence was so blatantly fabricated, so insultingly obvious, that it almost felt like a personal insult to her intelligence. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Karen had filed a $5,000 lawsuit against her elderly neighbor, claiming emotional distress over a parking dispute. But what the audience didn't know yet, what even Karen's own lawyer had tried to warn her about, was that Judge Judy had already spotted something in the evidence that would unravel everything. A tiny detail in the metadata of those text messages, an inconsistency in the dates that didn't just suggest dishonesty, it proved premeditated fraud. And Judge Judy was about to use that single detail to demolish Karen's entire case, her credibility, and her future ability to ever abuse the legal system again. Karen had spent the last 3 weeks bragging to everyone who would listen about how she was going to destroy that old woman in court and make a quick $5,000. She told her book club that Judge Judy was just a TV judge who doesn't even have real power, that she'd seen every episode and knew exactly how to play the sympathy card. She'd practiced her crying face in the mirror. She'd rehearsed her victim speech. She'd even coordinated her outfit to look simultaneously expensive enough to be taken seriously, but distressed enough to appear as the injured party. What Karen didn't know was that her neighbor, 72-year-old Mrs. Chen, hadn't come to court empty-handed. Sitting quietly in the defendant's seat, clutching a folder thick with documentation, Mrs. Chen had doorbell camera footage, HOA records, police reports, and witness statements from 4 other neighbors. But more importantly, she had something Karen never expected: the truth. And in Judge Judy's courtroom, the truth wasn't just an advantage, it was a nuclear weapon. As Karen approached the plaintiff's podium, she shot a glance at the gallery, her lips curling into a confident smile. The cameras were rolling. This was her moment. She'd been waiting for this spotlight, this chance to perform her victimhood for millions of viewers and walk away with a check. She adjusted her designer scarf, cleared her throat dramatically, and prepared to launch into the sob story she'd perfected. Judge Judy looked up from the file, and for just a split second their eyes met. In that fraction of a moment, Karen should have seen the warning signs. The slight narrowing of Judge Judy's eyes, the way her jaw set, the way she removed her glasses with that slow, deliberate motion that regular viewers knew meant someone was about to get eviscerated. But Karen was too blinded by her own arrogance to notice. She stood there, chest puffed out, ready to deliver her opening performance, completely unaware that Judge Judy had already decided this case before a single word was spoken. Not based on bias, but based on cold hard evidence that proved Karen was running a scam. The bailiff called the court to order. The red light on the main camera switched on. Millions of viewers across America settled into their couches, expecting another routine small claims case. What they were about to witness was something entirely different. This wasn't going to be a case. It was going to be an execution, a methodical, devastating, absolutely brutal takedown of an entitled fraud who had made the fatal mistake of underestimating the woman sitting across from her. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled in front of her face, and said 5 words that should have made Karen's blood run cold. "Go ahead. Tell me your story." Karen opened her mouth, that rehearsed victimhood ready to pour out, and stepped directly into a trap she never saw coming. Karen took a deep breath, her hand dramatically clutching her chest as if steadying herself against overwhelming emotion. Her voice started soft, trembling with practiced vulnerability, building toward what she clearly believed would be an Oscar-worthy performance. "Your Honor, I have been absolutely terrorized by this woman," she began, her free hand gesturing toward Mrs. Chen with theatrical disgust. "For 6 months I have lived in fear. Constant fear. She blocks my driveway every single day. She sends me threatening messages in the middle of the night, and when I politely ask her to stop, she laughs in my face and tells me there's nothing I can do about it. The tears came on cue, dabbing at the corners of her eyes with a tissue she'd conveniently pulled from her Gucci purse. I can't sleep, Your Honor. I've developed anxiety. I shake every time I come home wondering if she'll be there, waiting to harass me again. I just want peace. I just want to feel safe in my own home. She laid several printed text messages on the podium, her movements deliberate and rehearsed, sliding them toward the bailiff to pass to Judge Judy. Judge Judy picked up the messages without a word, her expression completely neutral as she scanned them. The silence in the courtroom stretched uncomfortably long. Karen shifted her weight, mistaking the quiet for contemplation, perhaps even sympathy. She pressed on, voice rising with indignation. Your Honor, I have never in my entire life been treated with such disrespect and cruelty. All I'm asking for is $5,000 to cover my therapy costs and the emotional damage this woman has caused. I think that's more than reasonable given what I've been through. Judge Judy finally looked up from the papers, her eyes locking onto Karen with an intensity that made the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. She removed her glasses slowly, folding them with deliberate precision before setting them on the bench. Anyone who'd watched her show for more than 5 minutes knew what that gesture meant. Someone was about to get destroyed. Ma'am, Judge Judy said, her voice carrying that deceptively calm tone that preceded devastation. Let me ask you something very simple. These text messages you've submitted as evidence, the ones you claim are threatening messages from Mrs. Chen, what phone number did they come from? Karen blinked, momentarily thrown by the question. From her phone, obviously. Judge Judy's eyebrow arched slightly. And what's her phone number? Karen rattled off a number from memory, her confidence returning. See, she knew the details. She'd done her homework. Judge Judy picked up the court documents, her finger tracing down a line of text. Interesting. Because the phone number listed here as your contact information, the one you provided when you filed this lawsuit, is the exact same number you just gave me as belonging to Mrs. Chen. The courtroom went dead silent. Karen's face flickered with confusion, then panic, then forced indignation in the span of 2 seconds. That has to be a clerical error. Your Honor, someone at the court office must have mixed up the numbers when they were processing. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping to that razor-sharp tone that cut through excuses like a hot knife through butter. There's no error, ma'am. You sent these threatening text messages to yourself, printed them out, and brought them to my courtroom as evidence. Did you really think I wouldn't check? Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Her carefully constructed facade cracked down the middle, and in that split second of silence every camera in the room captured the exact moment she realized she'd been caught. But instead of backing down, instead of admitting the truth, Karen's entitlement surged forward like a cornered animal lashing out. Her face flushed red, her voice rising to a shrill pitch that made the microphones crackle. Your Honor, with all due respect, you don't scare me. I know my rights and I know what happened. Maybe you should look at the evidence more carefully instead of just assuming I'm lying. The gallery gasped audibly. The bailiff's eyes went wide. Even Mrs. Chen's attorney sat up straighter, shocked that anyone would dare speak to Judge Judy that way. Judge Judy's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Not anger. Something far more dangerous. Satisfaction. The kind of satisfaction a chess master feels when their opponent makes the exact move they'd been waiting for. She smiled, just barely. A cold curve of the lips that promised absolute destruction. I don't scare you, she repeated slowly, letting each word hang in the air like a death sentence. How fascinating. Let's see if that confidence holds up in the next few minutes. She turned to Mrs. Chen, her voice suddenly warmer, almost gentle in contrast. Ma'am, would you like to present your side of the story? Karen gripped the podium, her knuckles white, her breathing rapid. That confidence she'd walked in with was evaporating faster than water on hot asphalt, replaced by the creeping realization that she'd just made a catastrophic mistake. Judge Judy wasn't some pushover TV personality. She was a predator, and Karen had just painted a target on her own back. Mrs. Chen rose from her seat with the quiet dignity of someone who had endured months of harassment but refused to be broken. Her hands trembled slightly as she approached the defendant's podium, not from fear but from the weight of finally being heard after so long being silenced. She carried a thick manila folder, worn at the edges from repeated review, and set it down with a soft thud that somehow carried more authority than all of Karen's theatrical gesturing combined. Your Honor, she began, her accent thick but her words clear and measured. I am 72 years old. I have lived in my condominium for 18 years. I work as a seamstress 6 days a week to support myself on Social Security. I park in the same parking space I have parked in since 2005. This is not her space. It has never been her space. The HOA documents prove this. Judge Judy nodded. gesturing for her to continue. Mrs. Chen opened her folder with practiced precision, pulling out the first document, a copy of the HOA parking assignment map dated and notarized. When Miss Martinez moved in 6 months ago, she immediately told me that parking space was hers. I showed her the HOA rules. I showed her my assignment letter. She screamed at me that she didn't care what some paper said, that she was going to park there and there was nothing I could do about it. The elderly woman's voice grew stronger as she spoke, fed by months of suppressed frustration, finally finding release. When I continued to park in my assigned space, she began blocking my car with hers. Not next to it, behind it, so I could not leave. The first time I was trapped for 4 hours waiting for her to move. I missed a client appointment. I lost $200 in work. She produced photographs, each one time-stamped and dated, showing Karen's distinctive black SUV parked directly behind Mrs. Chen's small sedan, blocking it completely. Judge Judy examined each photo carefully, her jaw tightening with every image. I called the police 3 times, Mrs. Chen continued, now pulling out police report copies. Each time they came and told her to move her car. Each time they told me this was a civil matter and I should contact the HOA. But the HOA, they are slow. They send letters, they have meetings, but nothing changes. And then she started with the harassment. Mrs. Chen's hands shook as she pulled out her actual cell phone, opening her text message thread with her daughter. Your Honor, on the dates Miss Martinez claims I was threatening her, I was actually texting my daughter about what Miss Martinez was doing to me. See here, March 15th, the same day she says I threatened her. I wrote to my daughter. The new neighbor blocked my car again. I don't know what to do. I'm scared to go home. Judge Judy took the phone, scrolling through messages that painted a picture completely opposite to Karen's claims. Real fear, real harassment, real documentation with metadata that couldn't be faked. But Mrs. Chen wasn't finished. From her folder, she produced what would become the nuclear bomb that obliterated Karen's entire case, a USB drive. Your Honor, I installed a doorbell camera after the second time she blocked my car. My grandson helped me set it up. I have videos of everything. The bailiff took the USB drive and loaded it onto the courtroom's display system. The first video began to play, and the entire room watched in stunned silence as Karen appeared on screen, her face twisted in rage that bore no resemblance to the frightened victim she'd just portrayed. The footage showed Karen screaming profanities at Mrs. Chen, who stood quietly with her hands clasped, saying nothing. It showed Karen making obscene gestures at the camera. It showed Karen deliberately blocking the driveway with her SUV, then looking directly at the camera and smiling, a cold, calculated smile that revealed the truth behind her entire scheme. The date stamps on the videos matched perfectly with the dates Karen had claimed to be the victim. Every single accusation Karen had made was inverted on that screen. She wasn't the terrorized neighbor. She was the terrorist. Judge Judy's face had transformed from judicial neutrality to barely contained fury. She looked from the screen to Karen, who had gone completely pale, her earlier bravado evaporating like morning mist under a scorching sun. Miss Martinez, Judge Judy said, her voice colder than anyone in that courtroom had ever heard it. Would you like to explain to me why the evidence shows the exact opposite of everything you just testified to under oath? Karen's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Her hands gripped the podium so tightly her fingers had gone white. The tears on her face now were real. Not from sadness, but from pure panic as she realized the walls were closing in and there was absolutely no way out. Judge Judy set down Mrs. Chen's phone with a deliberate slowness that made the simple gesture feel like a judge's gavel sealing a death sentence. She leaned back in her chair, her fingers interlaced in front of her, and for a long moment she simply stared at Karen with an expression that combined disappointment, disgust, and the cold satisfaction of someone who had seen this exact playbook before and was about to rip it to shreds. Let's go through this step by step, shall we? Judge Judy began, her voice carrying that methodical precision of a prosecutor building an airtight case. Because I want to make absolutely certain that everyone watching understands exactly what you attempted to do here today. Karen tried to interrupt, her voice cracking. Your Honor, I can explain. Judge Judy's hand shot up, silencing her instantly. You'll get your chance to speak. Right now you're going to listen. The authority in those words left no room for argument. First, the text messages. You fabricated evidence by sending threatening messages to yourself from your own phone number, then printed them and submitted them to this court as proof of harassment. Do you understand that fabricating evidence isn't just grounds for dismissal, it's perjury? It's a crime. You can go to jail for what you just did. Karen's breathing became rapid and shallow, her chest heaving as the reality crashed over her like a wave. Judge Judy continued, holding up the HOA documents Mrs. Chen had provided. Second, the parking dispute. According to these official records filed with the county and notarized in 2005, Parking space number 17 belongs to Mrs. Chen. It has belonged to her for 18 years. You moved into this complex 6 months ago, and immediately began claiming property that isn't yours. When she rightfully used her own parking space, you blocked her car. Not once, not twice. According to these police reports, you did this deliberately on at least 12 documented occasions. She held up the police reports, fanning them out like a deck of cards, each one stamped with complaint unfounded or no violation found. The police came to your residence 12 times in 6 months. 12 times they told you that you were in the wrong, and yet you persisted in this harassment. Judge Judy picked up a printout from the HOA, her eyes scanning it with the speed of someone who'd read thousands of similar documents. And speaking of the HOA, they sent you 4 written warnings about your behavior. 4 certified letters telling you to cease blocking Mrs. Chen's vehicle. You signed for every single one, which means you can't claim ignorance. Karen's face had progressed from red to an ashen gray, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool courtroom air. Your Honor, please, I was just trying to... Judge Judy cut her off with a look that could have frozen lava. You were trying to what? Extort money from an elderly woman? Abuse the legal system for profit? Because that's exactly what this is. She opened another folder that had been sitting on her bench, one Karen hadn't seen before. Karen's eyes widened with new terror. What else did this judge have on her? I did something before this hearing that I always do when a case seems suspicious, Judge Judy said, her tone almost conversational now, which somehow made it more terrifying. I ran a background check, and what I found was very illuminating. Karen's legs visibly wobbled. She gripped the podium as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. In 2019, you filed a lawsuit against a restaurant claiming you found glass in your salad. You demanded $10,000. The case was dismissed when surveillance footage showed you reaching into your purse and placing something into your food, before calling the manager over. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Judy raised her voice slightly to cut through the noise. In 2021, you sued your former employer for discrimination, claiming you were fired unfairly. You settled for $8,000 before 3 witnesses came forward testifying that you were actually terminated for falsifying timesheets and the company's insurance. Investigator found evidence of fraud. Karen was openly crying now, but these weren't the manipulative tears from earlier. These were tears of someone watching their entire house of cards collapse in real time on national television. You have a pattern, Ms. Martinez. You find vulnerable targets, people who can't afford lengthy legal battles or big businesses that would rather settle than fight, and you file fraudulent lawsuits. You're not a victim. You're a predator, and you made a critical error in judgment when you chose Mrs. Chen as your target, because she didn't settle. She came here with truth, with evidence, and with dignity. Judge Judy leaned forward, her eyes boring into Karen's soul. And you made an even bigger error when you walked into my courtroom, thinking you could run this scam on me. Judge Judy closed the folder with a sharp snap that echoed through the silent courtroom like a gunshot. She removed her glasses and set them on the bench, a gesture that signaled the end was near, but the pain was far from over. Your case is dismissed with prejudice, she announced, her voice carrying the finality of a coffin being sealed. That means you can never ever refile this lawsuit. It's over. Permanently. Karen's shoulders sagged with what might have been relief, thinking perhaps she could simply slink away and disappear. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. Not even close. But we're not done here, Miss Martinez. Not by a long shot. Judge Judy turned to Mrs. Chen, her voice softening in stark contrast to the ice she'd directed at Karen. Ma'am, did you have to hire an attorney to defend yourself against this fraudulent lawsuit? Mrs. Chen nodded, pulling out a receipt from her folder. Yes, Your Honor. $2,800. I had to take money from my retirement savings. Did you lose work time coming here today? Judge Judy asked. Yes, ma'am. Today would have been a full work day. About $150. Judge Judy nodded, making notes. Then she looked up, and what she said next made Karen's knees buckle. I'm awarding Mrs. Chen $2,950 to compensate her for defending against your malicious, fraudulent lawsuit. You will pay that amount within 30 days. Karen gasped, her voice breaking into a desperate plea. Your Honor, I don't have that kind of money. I can't. Judge Judy's eyes flashed with zero sympathy. You should have thought about that before you came into my courtroom with lies, and I'm not finished. The room held its breath. I'm also awarding Mrs. Chen an additional $500 in court costs. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of perjury charges related to your fabricated evidence. Karen's legs gave out. She grabbed the podium with both hands, her body shaking violently. No, please, Your Honor, I'll lose everything. My job, my reputation, please. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice dropping to a deadly calm that was somehow more terrifying than if she'd shouted. You came into my courtroom and lied under oath. You forged evidence. You targeted a 72-year-old woman living on Social Security because you thought she was an easy mark. You've done this before, and if I don't stop you now, you'll do it again. These are not the actions of someone who deserves mercy. But wait, you haven't seen the most shocking part yet. Judge Judy's about to reveal something that will change Karen's life forever. If you're loving this justice being served, smash that like button right now and drop a comment telling us what you think Karen deserves. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another epic courtroom takedown. Trust me, what happens next is absolutely insane. Judge Judy's final words cut through Karen's sobs like a blade through silk. Let me make something crystal clear to you and everyone watching. This judgment will become part of public record. Every future lawsuit you attempt to file, every judge you stand before will see that you fabricated evidence and committed fraud upon the court. Your credibility is destroyed. Permanently. She paused, letting that sink in before delivering the final blow. And one more thing. I'm ordering you to pay an additional $1,000 in sanctions for wasting this court's time with your elaborate lies. Total judgment. $4,450 payable to Mrs. Chen within 30 days. Plus whatever criminal penalties the district attorney decides are appropriate. Karen opened her mouth, but only a choked sob came out. Judge Judy wasn't done teaching her lesson. You told me I don't scare you. Well, you should have been terrified, because now you're going to pay for every lie you told, every document you forged, every moment you spent harassing an innocent woman. Judgment for the defendant. Case dismissed. The gavel came down with thunderous finality. Crack. The sound reverberated through the courtroom like a declaration of war won. Karen stood frozen. Mascara streaming down her face in black rivers. Her designer outfit now looking like a costume from a failed performance. The bailiff approached to escort her out, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. She stumbled, caught herself on the podium, and for a moment looked like she might collapse entirely. Mrs. Chen sat in quiet vindication, tears of relief rolling down her weathered cheeks as her attorney patted her shoulder. The gallery erupted in spontaneous applause, a rare occurrence in Judge Judy's courtroom, but one she didn't stop this time. This was justice, raw and unfiltered, and everyone present knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary. The episode exploded across social media within hours, becoming the most viral courtroom moment in television history. Karen's bold claim, "You don't scare me," followed by her complete destruction, became an instant meme, racking up over 70 million views in 2 days. Her identity was quickly discovered through public court records, and her employer fired her immediately, stating they couldn't employ someone whose integrity had been so publicly compromised. The district attorney charged her with perjury and fraud. Facing jail time, Karen accepted a plea deal including community service, fines, probation, and a 5-year ban on filing lawsuits without court approval. She was forced to sell her home and move states to escape the shame. Mrs. Chen became a local hero, using the judgment money for security cameras and donating the rest to legal aid for elderly harassment victims. Her courage inspired others to stand up against bullies. The case sparked national conversation about frivolous lawsuits and weaponized victimhood. Several states introduced loser pays legislation, directly citing this case. Judge Judy's ratings soared 23% as millions tuned in for authentic accountability. In a later interview, Judge Judy reflected, she thought volume equals validity. It doesn't. Facts are facts, lies are lies, and in my courtroom, truth always wins. The case became a teaching moment in law schools nationwide about the consequences of fraud. It proved that no matter how entitled someone feels, no matter how convincing their performance, evidence and truth will always prevail. Karen walked into that courtroom with arrogance and walked out with nothing but consequences. A permanent reminder that justice, when properly served, is swift, brutal, and absolutely deserved. If this epic takedown satisfied your justice cravings, you absolutely need to subscribe right now. We bring you the most savage courtroom destroys entitled People Getting Reality Checked, and Karma Served Ice Cold. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and comment below. What other entitled person should face Judge Judy next? Check out our next video where another Karen learns you can't lie to a judge. Thanks for watching, and remember, in court, bring evidence, not attitude.